Welcome to Steps Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in every single week. As you guys know, I have a different guest who will come on the show and talk about all things ADU, all things multifamily, all things real estate investment strategies. And I'm very selective of who I have on. These are very highly vetted individuals, highly experienced people who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of value to bring to you guys every single week. If you have someone who you think might be a good fit for the show, make sure you guys reach out to me. And another way to stay connected, I know that some of you guys are listening in every single week on the podcast, and you may not know that I do have my active YouTube channel where I'm always sharing other sorts of tips and tricks on what I'm actively doing on myself as an ADU strategist and consultant and investor. And then also, make sure you guys reach out and follow me on Instagram, Steph Sells ADU. I constantly have different content on there showcasing a lot of what the strategies that we're talking about on this podcast, whether it's midterm, ADUs, multifamily, acquisitions, you name it, just property management, mom life, all the things. Make sure you guys follow me on there so we can continue to cultivate this relationship. Now, enjoy this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. All right. Welcome, guys, to another episode here, Steps Podcast. This is episode 88. My goal is to hit 100 before the end of the year. May or may not get there, but I'm definitely close enough. And I'm very proud of, almost 100 episodes. We've had amazing guests, a lot of highly vetted people. One that I'm having today, it's been, a long time in the making, trying to get him to be on my podcast because everyone wants Ryan, in the how-to ADU strategy. He's so knowledgeable when it comes to ADUs. And, because we both love to geek out on these topics, we became good friends. We're in the same circles. We advocate for one another, for each other, and for other people. And I know you guys may have seen him maybe on YouTube. He has a channel called How to ADUs. He really is on a mission here to reduce the housing shortage, which is something I'm a huge fan of. And as I mentioned, he's the founder of How to ADU. He manages a community of over 200,000 homeowners in California to build homes in their backyards, right? Through either building ADUs or SB9, which is something we were talking about offline. And you guys have heard me talk about SB9 and other bills. And today, our main focus is going to be talking about bills. And what I was telling Ryan is not the bills that we get every month that we don't look forward to. These are legislative bills that have passed. And Ryan and I were very intentional about when we wanted to schedule this podcast because we knew that there was going to be a set of bills that had been passed by the time we did the podcast. So that was awesome too. That's how intentional I am about these episodes. So this, for you guys will be amazing. 20, 30 minutes of nothing but good information that you guys should be aware of, whether you're a homeowner, an investor, or an ADU advocate, or an ADU practitioner. These are bills that you need to stay on top of, especially this, 2026. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to you, Ryan. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I can't believe I waited till 88. I'm such a
88. That's a good number.
Good number. I'm glad. At 87, I was like, I think this has got legs. Right. I love working with you, and it's an honor to talk to you and your audience about all these bills. I haven't even put this on my channel yet. It's hot off the press. I'm like printing things left and right, and like piles of papers, and got my big highlighter out. The big performative highlighter, and it's been a blast going through this year's legislation because I follow it year round. It's an annual cycle in California, which isn't true in every state. Right. But they meet every year. And I know broadly what bills are in the pipeline, but I don't read them unless they're going to pass. And then once that happens, I kind of hit the books, and man, it's a huge year. It's a huge and very technical year.
100%. Yes.
So do you want to just kind of dive in?
Yeah, I'm same as you. I was keeping up, I'd say for the past 4 to 5 years, maybe you've been doing it longer, keeping up with some of the bills that passed. But I'd say these last 2 to 3 years, two specifically, and then this last year, and then this last month alone, it's just been insane with
Yeah.
the amount of changes that are happening, and a lot of good changes. I'd say the majority of them are really just these. A lot of these bills are just getting better and better as far as allowing us to create more inventory, whether it's more housing for homeowners, being able to tap into certain markets, or helping investors, by creating more income and cash flow to help them offset other expenses. So I was keeping up with some of the latest ones, and then once they passed, same as you, I started reading them, started sharing and advocating. And even when we spoke at the IMN event, back in, what was it, two months
August.
ago or a month ago, right, in San Diego. I mean, we shared how important it is to not only advocate. Now they've passed because of so much advocating, right? We're both Casita members, so that's probably where I really kept up with the bills, to be quite honest. And whatever Casita was sharing, I was kind of just keeping an eye on it. Once they passed, and now it's like, okay, now it's game time. How do we implement this? Because I feel like when bills are passed, that's just half the battle. That
Yeah,
right. The other
that's
half
it.
is implementation, and so that's where you come in, right? To kind of show us first how. Let's start off with a couple of those bills, whichever
Yeah,
one you want to go with
there's
first.
kind of like I'll frame it with there's two trends that I see that tap into what you're saying. One is it used to be that ADUs were separate in their own part of government code, and also in the advocates who supported them. So like Casita was really central at the beginning of that ADU stuff, right? And you can
Right,
listen to Denise Pinkston talk about the history of the movement and things, and it's really interesting. And I think the more success that ADUs got, the more you see advocates who normally concern themselves with broader housing bills get more and more
right,
interested in the ADUs because everybody wants to take a piece. And not just on the advocate side, on the politician side too. So that's one trend. And it combines with the fact that the housing law is just getting more and more developed at the state level in California. And so what I've seen last year and this year is that there's so many housing bills that happen to affect ADUs that now we can't just read the 4 or 5 bills that say ADU in them. We gotta read
you have to
like
broaden
hundreds of
it up,
pages
right,
because everything that touches on housing can touch on ADUs, even transit bills. Like last year, they changed the definition of what a major transit stop was. And I'm like, wait, that actually, even though it has nothing to do with housing, that
right.
changes who can build 2-story ADUs. And so there's all these knock-on effects. So yeah, let's launch in. We could do the easy ones right off the bat. The ones that literally say ADUs, it's like JADU parity. So now the owner occupancy is going to come off of junior ADUs if they have their own bathroom. To be determined how like that'll work for people who have already started their project or finished their project. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
it's also a good place to remind people, even when they do have owner occupancy, that should not be on the deed restriction, even though
Mm-hmm.
that's how a lot of jurisdictions are trying to enforce it. Check out your HCD handbook for the
Yes.
section on that and bring that into the city and try to get them to not put it in your deed. Then the other big stuff, there's a whole rechaptering. This is boring technical stuff, but basically McNerney's bill kind of just goes through and says, hey, let's just rearrange how we list all this stuff. And even though that looks like nothing changed, because it changes the order of some of the clauses, it basically makes it so that JADUs and ADUs have the same enforcement mechanisms in each chapter now. And so if you previously had a jurisdiction that was trying to get cute about junior ADUs, this fix will change a lot of that and make it harder for jurisdictions to treat juniors differently. Additionally, that bill sneaks in a little some, which was already in the handbook that I was just showing off,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of a weird one. It's the handbook says, hey, if your city doesn't have a definition for how to measure the space, the interior living space, a definition to measure the square footage of an ADU, use the interior of the walls. You don't count like the whole footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And this bill specifically says that now for the size limits of juniors and conventional ADUs. It's like we should be using the interior living space. And that's a pretty squirrely way to. I mean, it's in the ICC and stuff, but it's a not how most cities have been measuring the square footage. So pretty interesting. And then the other piece, let me just make sure I hit them all. You've got there's an Araguin bill that's pretty interesting. It's actually called SB9, which is very confusing for everybody because we use the same bill numbers every session, right? But SB9 this year, it's gonna take any time a city adopts an ADU ordinance, they have to submit it to the HCD, the state agency, and then the HCD has a chance to weigh in and say, hey, that's not good enough, or yep, that's a great ordinance. This bill says if your city does not do that within a certain amount of time, then its whole ordinance is null and void. Null and void is the language in the bill. And then it says if the HCD replies to them and says, hey, it's not good enough, the city has some options, but if they don't do one of those two options very specifically, then again, within a certain amount of time, null and void. And so for a lot of jurisdictions that are really pushing the boundary and kind of ignoring the HCD or not sending in their ordinance at all, I'm going to try to generate a list of these, which will be in the video. But that basically means your city doesn't have a local ordinance. And if it doesn't have a local ordinance, you go back to the state rules. And some unique things about the state rules: no height limits. So all of a sudden, if your city doesn't have a local ordinance they can enforce, you could propose a 2-story ADU if that's the underlying zoning code, stuff like that. So pretty interesting. And then the other stuff, let's see. We're translating all the guidance into other languages, so expect some videos in Espanol.
Exactly.
And then there's some stuff that passed in the summer in the budget riders, little things about HOAs and San Francisco rent control. And those are the ADU specific bills. Then I've got all my housing bills, but we should do those one at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Those we'll get to. But to your point, I mean, I think a lot of these ADU bills have had to be addressed because it all falls under this middle housing issue that we're all having, right? And that's one of the things I talked about with Jared in a couple episodes back from Middle Housing Partners. And ADUs have become such a huge part of the conversation when it comes to solving that gap between middle housing. And so I think now, with laws like AB 1033, which hopefully a lot more cities opt into, these ADUs are going to be underwritten just like a single family home or condo, townhome, at some point, and they're really going to get the value that they deserve. They'll be able to be a lot more financing options. And, it just will create a lot more opportunities for people to be able to leverage their current properties, future properties, or, whatever it is that they're wanting to do. It just opens a lot more. Totally. Now, when it comes to the housing bills, maybe we can give them some context
on that. The one that I think is a great place to just highlight and everybody's super curious about is third-party plan check.
Yes.
and what that means is if your city takes too long to review a permit, or if a local agency takes too long to give you comments, then you can go hire a third party to do your plan check for you and sort of say, hey, don't worry, city, I got somebody else to do it. And that's incredible when you stop and think about it. It's if for anybody who's ever submitted a permit in a city where they just kind of don't answer for 90 days, right? There's still a lot of jurisdictions like that. And some of them are understaffed, good faith operators, but some of them are kind of mean.
Even though they're supposed to get back to you within a certain time frame. And now with the other bill, I can't remember which one it is, they're supposed to get back to you within 60 days, right? With an approval or denial or corrections, technically. But this really helps like shorten up that time frame, hopefully, because you have the opportunity to hire a third party company.
The way I frame it, and this isn't legal advice, we can go talk to a lawyer.
It's all educational. Yeah.
And even a real estate professional might be able to point you about some of the stuff, but talk to a lawyer when you're thinking about this stuff. Because what the shot clock that we refer to in the ADU world is, there's a certain shot clock before it's deemed complete, before your application is deemed complete, and then there's a shot clock that they have once that's been deemed complete to issue comments. And it's actually it's a very short shot clock, relatively speaking, and it kind of exists in its own world because ADUs are ministerial, right? And so there's no entitlement phase, right? Like in a normal permitting process, you first need to be entitled. Like, yes, you can, on this lot, you can broadly build an affordable unit, an affordable housing apartment complex of the kind you're describing. And then once you get that entitlement, then you go through all the massive detailed specs and documentation, which you submit for a residential building permit, right? And in ADUs, we kind of just start with the full set. And a lot of jurisdictions, it just skips the planning desk completely. They just bring a copy to building and bring a copy to fire, bring a copy to sewer. And then in other jurisdictions, they still make you go through the planning department. And it just depends, right? But this bill, because it's designed as a housing law, it's really saying, hey, once you have your entitlement, then there's only 30 business days once you've submitted the full specs before you get comments for your residential building permit. But when I look at ADUs, I'm like, we're applying for the residential building permit from day one, right? So if you wanted to think about it, you could say that the 30 business day shot clock starts the second your complete application for a residential building permit is submitted for the ADU. And this, because it's not what the law was framed for, like the legislative analysis talks a ton about entitlement. It's talking about these bigger projects. And it's our jobs as practitioners to go, hey, can we apply this here? Can we use this to, like you said, speed up some projects, which I think we'll talk about it, but like what'll certainly be true is if you're in a city that just kind of doesn't treat ADUs seriously and takes 90 days, you can certainly be a squeaky wheel and remind them like, hey, this bill actually lets me go hire a third party. Do you want me to do that? I wouldn't say it speeds up the process, but it certainly stops it from going forever.
90 days plus, right? Yeah.
But you're right. There's some jurisdictions that are just overwhelmed. And like the city manager doesn't like the fact that 1 week there's no permit applications, and then the next week there's 12 ADU permits coming in by chance, and they suddenly have to treat them all in 30 days. Like that's, in a small town. I live in a town with like 2 planners. And like they got me, so their hands are full, right? Poor people. But if you're in a town like that as a city manager, you're like, ugh, I don't like this. So we're thinking, hey, when I submit my application, do I just put in a cover letter that says, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this legislation, but you're actually, if you think it'll take you more than 30 business days to handle this, if you tell me that, that's it. You just have to give me an estimate that you don't think you can handle this in the next 30 business days. And if you give me that estimate, I am allowed to go hire a third party, take it off your hands, save you the staff time. TBD if jurisdictions like that or not. But I've met some city managers who would gladly get their staff time back. And
a lot of them were, a lot of them like in LA and I think even Orange County were hiring their own third parties, right? The cities themselves. But the issue with that was whoever they were hiring was just making it worse because, they really weren't helping. The whole purpose was for them to be able to kind of delegate that to the third party, but it was just honestly not the way to go. So I'm glad that now at least the homeowner or investor has the leverage to be able to choose who they want, right?
Yeah. This is a classic. This bill is built on that bill that you're talking about.
Exactly.
That bill was like, hey, cities, you're allowed to and encouraged to go hire third parties. But then when the city's the client, the third party kind of like looks for problems because they want to show that they're doing something. Exactly. Now, on the other hand, if a homeowner goes and hires the third party, the client kind of wants you to just go, yeah, it's done appropriately. And it might change the incentive structure a little bit. So it's a very exciting space. But now it's classic
and that's a great
implementation.
opportunity. That's a really good opportunity for people who want to become third-party consultants on behalf of these homeowners, right?
So you need to be a licensed architect or engineer, and the government code sections are cited in the statute in AB 253. And then you need to get a certification as a residential plans inspector with either the ICC or the IAPMO. And I am actively looking for people who want to do this, because obviously I'm going to get a ton of requests, and I would much rather just make a video and not have to talk to anybody individually, because that's how we streamline this process, right? So if there is a licensed engineer or architect out there who wants to be in this business, contact us.
Yes. Reach out to Ryan, reach out to myself, whoever, because that's going to be huge. We're all going to need that at some point. And, even as ADU practitioners and consultants, homeowners and investors are going to ask us, do we know of a third party company? Right. And so it's great for us to be able to start kind of building up that team, vetting people, making sure they follow the rules and requirements. So that's good. And I know a lot of architects, engineers, developers, realtors, investors are kind of part of the audience. So definitely reach out to Ryan.
Yeah. In my dream is like kind of an older engineer who has fewer F's to give about everything, and is like, man, if I could turn around and in semi-retirement just like stick it to the bureaucracy. Like I want that guy or gal to keep their license and to just enjoy checking already completed plan documents, right? Like these are stamped. These are already submitted. Like another professional has already checked them and double checked them. We just need an engineer who's willing to look at it and go, yeah, everything's done to process.
Everything's good.
What do you want?
No, that's great. And that's just one bill of many. And look at the opportunity that it's created for other people, right? That's one that I'll be keeping an eye on. If I know of anyone, I'll send them your way too.
Yeah, of course, please. And then, so the other half of it, so if that's the carrot, like, hey, city, let me help you by hiring somebody. The stick has also appeared, where there have been a lot of reforms around what you can do when the city misbehaves. And so, for example, there's an attorney fee shifting, sorry, not fee shifting. There's a provision now that would, if you win as an applicant on a residential project and you sue the city, if you win against the city, the judge is going to say, hey, the city has to pay your attorney fees, which is nice. And then additionally, the city, if they've received a written notice from the HCD or the state attorney general, then they're on the hook for fines. And on a project small like the ADU, that's a $50,000 minimum. And if they are already fined once, then it gets multiplied by 5. So each subsequent case gets this multiplier. And that's going to change the conversation, I think, in some city chambers, where right now, if a homeowner comes along, kind of causes a ruckus, especially in a mean city, right? In a, I won't pick on anybody in public, but some cities have a way, right?
I mean, there's one, like, I don't take projects in Compton, and I know very few people that do, because they're just their own world, and they can be very mean. And that's just one of a couple others within LA, but Compton is like its own.
Well, so we'll get to this part too, but like in a small jurisdiction, again, like a lot of the smaller ones are the ones that disrespect the timelines more, because they're like, what's somebody gonna do, right? If you threaten to sue, a lot of the time, again, not legal advice for if one threatens to sue, not legal advice for anybody specific. A lot of the time, what happens is, the staff kind of have a conversation with the city attorney, and they're like, well, does this matter? And the city attorney's on staff or on contract. They're happy to take, right? Like, what does this expose us much? Well, there's the process, but you're already paying me, like, not a big deal if we get sued.
Right.
It's just one homeowner. If on the other hand, the conversation is like, well, we might be exposed to pay their entire legal bill. Plus, because we received this notice from the HCD, we'd be on the hook for $50K in fines. And if they've already been hit once, then on the hook for $250K. Smaller jurisdictions are just going to start noticing that and weighing that in their conversation, I think, a little bit more. Big cities, LA, San Francisco, $50,000 is like a staff meeting for 20 minutes. It's not.
Right.
So yeah, it depends. But that's kind of interesting and opening up some avenues. Again, I don't think most people. It's like the other one. A lot of people aren't going to actually use the rule, but the fact that the rule exists will often create a different conversation when you're talking to the city, because you're like, hey, can you guys get my permit comments in, or else I'll just go and hire a third party, no sweat.
Or I'll submit a claim with HCD, which has been very crucial and super helpful for ADU consultants or anyone who's really helping clients navigate through the planning phase. I mean, the fact that you could submit something, reach out to HCD, they're doing an amazing job at staying on top of a lot of these claims, making sure and holding these cities accountable to actually following through with the process that's
and these all
required.
combine, right? So
And
that
other states, just so you guys know, other states don't have an HCD because, I'm tapping into Florida market, I'm tapping into other markets that I'm seeing, Massachusetts, Colorado, and as I'm reading and learning about their ADU ordinances and their ADU law, unfortunately, they're at the mercy of the city at the end of the day because they don't have a beautiful ADU handbook like we do, and HCD who they can refer to when cities aren't doing what they're supposed to. And that makes it very difficult to build. It's just a lot of friction where you really have to find this art on how to communicate your message through to these planners. And so with California, I mean, we have it easy at this point, even now to the point where isn't HCD also going to oversee SB9 projects, right?
Yeah, I think SB9's
I think
officially
now
been added to their
SB9,
jurisdiction.
which is incredible because also SB9, if you guys have been following SB9, it's had its own journey throughout the last couple of years, right? Where you've gotten pushback from charter cities, and so now there's been these couple of changes, and so just wanted to highlight that. Super
Yeah.
crucial for you guys to know, we have an ADU police, you could say, that really helps us and is backing up what state law is.
They don't like that. They say, "Oh, we're
What do they
offering
want to be?
technical."
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're offering advice. We're offering help to the cities. I'm like, yeah, keep helping.
Yeah, keep helping. Yeah.
But yeah, all these rules end up combining in interesting ways too, right? So you remember this year's SB9 says if the city doesn't submit its ordinance, it's null and void, right?
Right.
So let's say you live in a city that's being super restrictive and you know that it's got a null and void ordinance. So you go and design plans to the state rules, you submit them, and the city takes too long to even get back with comments. That's actually, in that hypothetical, you're happy that they didn't get back to you in 30 business days, because now you're going to go hire that third party who knows the state rules and
Right.
knows that city is in violation and actually finds in your favor. Maybe, right? And then maybe the city objects, but now they're objecting to a third party that's state licensed and knows the rules better than the city does. And that's a much better conversation to take to HCD and be like, well, the third party plan checker already understands that the city's ordinance is invalid and that I built one, I my specs are to the state code. That's a great conversation, because then the HCD can go like that. Look,
Very easy.
he
Yeah.
already got his approval. Whereas the other way, you're really, even if you punish the local agency, it's like,
Right.
yeah, but they're still the ones who need to give me the thing I need. I want that
Exactly.
permit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of these start to combine in really fun ways. But we'll
Well, I
see
did
if the
talk.
rubber hits the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We got to see how all of these. I talked with Jared as well. We were talking about bill stacking, right? Because he's figured out his own little niche with 684, 1123, and SB9 and ADU kind of all overlapping. And so it was just very cool to see like his mind and what he's kind of created for himself in Riverside. Um, with just being able to get creative with these bills and understanding how to stack them. And so, same way, when talking to the city, when working with the city, how can I use some of these bills and reference them to my advantage when I'm communicating with the city to really get these projects along? Because I understand that there's still a lot of friction between both parties, homeowners and investors and consultants and planning as well. But I feel like being able to hire your own third party planner, I mean, just makes a difference in the world. Having HCD to back all of that up makes it even easier. And so now it's really no excuse. Like now it's really about having strategy this 2026. And I think what we were talking about earlier is like the implementation of it. So sounds like you're already 2-3 steps ahead, building your own team of third party planners. And what's something else that you're focusing on for 2026?
Okay, well, how wonky am I allowed to get on this mission?
we got time.
one of the most mysterious things in California. Have you ever been in a jurisdiction where like the city planners are great, the building inspection's great, and then all of a sudden you get a note from like the water corporation,
utilities? Yes.
but like not Edison or
No,
PG&E,
not
something you
these big
recognize.
ones, but
It's like
yes.
the Monterey Water Corporation District, and you're like, what? I
Yeah.
made that one up, right? It's not. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have put Monterey in it, but like you're like, who is this even? It's this thing in California around the year 2000. They created this thing for they're called LAFCOs, which sounds like Looney Tunes, but it's Local Agency Formation Corporation or something like that. And these LAFCOs, whenever I run into an agency that's been created by one, I just like tell the homeowner, like, okay, honestly, I have no idea how these work. You're gonna have to go in front of them. I remember the first one that ever happened. It was like, you're gonna have to go in front of them because that's what they've requested. I don't know what any of the process is. They don't put any of it in recordings. They don't make any of it public. It's like this mystery. So let me know how it goes. And they came back and they were like, Ryan, it was awful. It was like this guy who acted like he was a judge. He's not a judge. It's not a court. And he like, here's my case. And he just tells me to get lost, basically. Like, there's just no way I'm getting a permit. And there's no recourse. I was like, who do I talk to? Who do I appeal to? Who can I raise this to? And he was like, nobody. And I swear, every now and then there are these local agencies that act that way. So I've been complaining about this for years, and Arigine again put through a
what is it called again?
LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Company, Corporation, Corp, something.
Oh my God.
LAFCO. But now there's a bill. It's one of the funnier bills I've ever read too. It's like, hey, when we passed the law in 2000, we said that we expected these LAFCOs to like publish their processes once they were formed. Once they formed anything, and this law is to actually do that. Let's make them do that. and they have to publish all of their internal processes and any kind of application that you might be required to submit. They have to put that application on the internet and explain like what would be part of a complete application. Let's not operate in the shadows anymore. And this sounds super esoteric, but I promise there are tons of projects that have been stopped because a LAFCO formed agency, whatever the term is. Sorry, if there's a nerd out there who knows this.
No, I looked it up. So Local Agency Formation Commission.
Commission, that makes more sense.
Yeah, commission, I guess.
So if there's somebody out there who knows this stuff, get in the comments and give us knowledge, because this is so shrouded in mystery. But in any case, I'm really excited about the bill because it's called SB 489 in this session. And it just does the original intent of the original thing that passed in 2000. It says, hey, you gotta tell us what the processes are. You can't just like make them up as you go or keep them in a binder somewhere. And and that is the first step to then cleaning house, right? And then saying, hey, did you notice that there are some agencies that have been formed that do not follow the rules? And I know I sound crazy when I talk about this stuff, but like I have literally I've been contacted by various LAFCO members and then the agencies that they form and gotten really crazy kind of like, hey, that's not how that works kind of messages. And I'm like, oh great, tell me how it works. And then they just ghost me.
It's so interesting
yeah.
because it says here, if you're dealing with ADU development, when dealing with LAFCO, it says they can influence utility jurisdiction, zoning consistency, and eligibility for infrastructure.
Yeah. So like I think the reason they were originally intended to exist is to determine the boundaries of like city and unincorporated and things like that. But more and more I see local agencies like water corporations or water districts formed by these groups, and then they kind of they just have their own path. They kind of aren't as accountable anymore because like no, I shouldn't say nobody. I have no idea how these work, and I try really hard to learn about it. And everyone is a unique and beautiful snowflake. So I'm super excited that this bill is going to require places to start putting things in writing. And there's a lot of legislation like that this year. That's like, hey, if you're a jurisdiction over a certain size, you got to put all your applications on the internet.
Right.
So like in my town, you still have to submit in person with printed out copies. They're like, over a certain size, no more. And there's tons of bills like that are just about transparency. Last year, we got the utility fee transparency bill that goes into effect in January.
Yeah.
So finally, we're going to get a place where you don't just get a surprise connection charge. You know what it's going to be ahead of time. Or you can object because, hey, it wasn't published.
Exactly. Yeah, now you know how to underwrite it too, because you know what to expect with these upfront fees. I love, I'm all for transparency because it just makes everyone's life so much easier.
And transparency is the other hand of accountability, right?
Yeah,
Like if we know something's happening, then we can fix it, or we can improve it, or we can remove an obstacle. But if things are happening in the shadows, then it's hard for people to really understand the problem to begin with. And what gets measured gets improved, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, exactly. Which I need to get better at tracking all of that. But we're doing the best that we can. So I love it. I mean, we can geek out on this stuff all day long.
That's it. Those are my favorite.
Ryan and I are very passionate about this, and I think we'll definitely do like a part 2. Look at him.
These are all the bills. I finally found a way to print all these things for free. I was like paying hundreds of dollars in printer fees every year.
So how'd you figure out how to print it for free?
Oh, I'm not telling. I work with a local academic institution.
Well, that's great because maybe you can connect with them. I have to print out like 200 pages, but I have a printer at home. But I was just like, oh my God, that seems like a lot of work. I may just go to Office Depot or something and have them.
That's what I've been doing because I get these I have bound copies of the HCD handbook.
And I've shown that HCD handbook plenty of times on this podcast. So by now, my listeners should have a copy of that. You could get a free copy PDF. And, for those of you who really want to take this a step further and understand more about what, Ryan was talking about today, join us. You could become a member, Casita Coalition, and we don't get paid for this. We're just like sharing it, but it's a great way. This is where I see him monthly, whether we have our cameras on or not, but it's a nice check-in call where we could all see like what's working, what's new, what should we stay on top of, how can we make it better, right, collectively. And it really helps you. It empowers you. It gives you a lot of confidence to be able to speak to cities, speak to these. I haven't ran into a LAFCO, but now I'm confident.
and you never run into the LAFCO. You run into the agency that they formed.
That they created. Right.
And then people make the mistake of complaining to the city, but the city's like, I got no jurisdiction.
I have nothing to do with this.
Go to the LAFCO. And then they go, oh, we don't control them after the formation. But you know what? They always know somebody there.
Exactly. Yeah. And, to your point, like these calls with Casita members, I've gone to meet a lot of the people on there, and through that got to meet people that work for HCD. I mean, I even had the pleasure of meeting at the ADU conference in Pasadena. I got a chance to meet Juan Carrillo, who wrote one of the bills, and got his number too, just by being in the room and hanging around, the right people. And so I encourage you guys to, yeah, become a member there. Yimby is another, great resource, and you could also become a member. Are there any others that you think
Yeah,
would be
sure.
helpful?
So for practitioners, like you said, Casita, and there's a course you can take now through Casita
Right.
Coalition, which is great.
Which, by the way, I
So,
think I got the email tomorrow. They're having like a ADU basics one, and they have the cohort which I took. That was a great course by Timothy.
yeah.
Yeah, but what were you gonna say?
So I
The
was like, that's for practitioners. If you want to change legislation, like if you're one of these people who's like, why didn't they fix this or why did they do this? Then you should go donate to California YIMBY, because
right,
you can actually influence what legislation they work on if you donate, right? That's how bills get passed. And then if you're more of a like city, like I want to go talk in my city, I want to get my city to adopt ADU condos, or I want to do, this reform or that reform. I want parking change. I want height rules. Then YIMBY Action is about grassroots organizing. And then there's a lot of regional ones. That's another trend. Like there's more and more diversity in the movement. So there's brownfield development at Progress California. There's Abundant Housing LA is a great one for more
right.
progressive, a little bit more tenant protection focus in that tent. So lots of cool organizations, but the big ones, Casita Coalition
Yeah, that's
and
a good one to start
California
off with.
YIMBY Action.
Amazing. Now, one thing I did want to finish off with is highlight all the amazing stuff that you're doing. And I want people to kind of get a glimpse of what you could help them with. I know that you manage over, a community of over 200,000 people. Like I follow, when I do go on Facebook now and then, all I see is like the how-to notifications. There's so many people that are active on how to ADU, which you have, I don't even know at this point how many members.
I mean,
You
I
have
think it was 130,000 last time I checked. But it's like thousands of weekly posts. Like people are in there
100%.
really
Yeah.
helping each other.
That's
So
probably another good way to get started too, by the way. Just join the Facebook group, because you will learn so much just from seeing what people are posting, what people are commenting. Like just go on there, get educated, and tap into what's currently happening. So with all the groups, the Facebook group, the YouTube audience, like who do you help? How do you help them? Do you help by consulting and helping them through the design and the planning phase, or like you set them up with an architect and a contractor? Like what are some of those services that you help with?
I tell everybody I'm useless. I put everything in the
No,
videos.
you're not.
It's all
You're
online. It's free.
everywhere for
so,
a reason.
if you want information, like all these new laws, I'm gonna do a detailed dive that'll be a little more edited than a good podcast conversation. So it'll have more information and be denser. You'll need to like rewatch it, right? But that'll be on the channel for free. And then there'll be links in the description to my spreadsheet where I like track all these bills, and there's links to the text and stuff. And then you're off to the races. You should get your own builder, get your own architect. I have sponsors on the channel that help you find those services, but you don't need to use me, right? When it's useful, then I'll like for this third-party plan checker, I'll be developing relationships, and I'll try to put people that I can vet on the channel. But sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? Like if I put one person on the channel and they get super busy, they end up raising their rates. They don't
Right.
want to take new clients. So it can be, for builders especially, it's really hard. We'll see. But I try to do as much as I can at scale for free. You just go online, you do it that way, and watch the channels. If you're on TikTok, YouTube, then it's all How to ADU. The Facebook group is How to ADU. On Instagram, it's Ryan O Housing. And yeah, just don't worry about supporting little old me. The sponsors take care of me.
That's all. Yeah, and
That's
that's
it. That's it.
honestly,
Use Realm. They're the
yeah,
sponsor that helps you find builders. They're great. And yeah, that's all.
that's awesome. Well, look, I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate your time here today on the podcast, because I know even though you just do a whole bunch of stuff. You may say that you don't, but I know that you're advocating, and that's such a huge role in what we do, right? Like we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have a Ryan who geeks out and nerds out on this stuff. Because let's be honest, like a lot of us just don't have the desire for it. And if that's your thing, hey, go for it. I'll just I'll call you and reach out when I need something to be explained. But
Call in the
yeah,
nerds.
guys, make sure you guys reach out to Ryan. And yeah, Ryan, hopefully I'll see you in person. I think I'll be out like near your neck of the woods sometime first quarter next year. So stay tuned, guys, because we may collaborate, and we see each other in these circles all the time. So if you guys, don't reach out to him, reach out to me. I'll connect you guys via email, text, whatever, but reach out. Amazing. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Ryan.